Let's learn how to draw mouths. Mouth. I've got my supplies here. This is all I need. A cheap Bic pen and a cheap sketchbook. It's one of these bad boys. Hello Kitty. From Michael's. Just a cheap sketch pad. It's not heavy paper. It's basically glorified printer paper. That's all you need. In fact, I suggest using cheap materials because when we're learning, I think it's important not to be too precious about our materials. If we start out using all these different pencils with different softnesses, sure, that's how you achieve realism, and to push visual art to its greatest extent would be to use as many mediums as possible to get all the varieties of textures that are in nature, but that is not what this video is about. We are learning the fundamentals of drawing lips, the mouth, and its relationship to all the other facial features, because eventually we're going to learn how to draw the whole face. Stick around, subscribe to see that one. But we're doing them bit by bit, and we're starting with the mouth. We already learned how to draw some genitals, the penis, the vagina. Check out those other videos. Today, another orifice, the mouth. The other lips. Let's get started and I'll talk along the way. So I like to show you kind of a wide spectrum from basically, if this is our spectrum, looks like a spectrum, different points on the spectrum, you know what I'm saying? So maybe this one is most simple. Here is realism, most detailed. I'm not gonna do a hyper-realistic drawing of a mouth today, but we'll get fairly detailed. We'll probably end up somewhere around here. So like this would be cartoonish, you know, this is like anatomically correct. So let's just get into it. A cartoonish mouth in its simplest form could just be a line, literally a line. And obviously in context with other shapes, maybe that's enough to tell you that's a nose. You know what I'm saying? You could take it a little step further. This is how we do it. We start from the most simple and we work our way up to a little more detail. This is still pretty cartoony. Like this is over here, right? Like this is like down here. This is there, this is here. And we're just like adding a little more detail to imply. You have the corner of the mouth. And then, you know, obviously we'll just skip ahead to like most realistic. I'm gonna show you how to do all these in a second, but I'm just gonna show you kind of where our end game is gonna be. And this isn't even, you know, this isn't even like actually what we're capable of, but I'm just trying to show you like the difference of more detailed, just real quick. This is just like a little preview, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell you. Give it a little bit more context. Okay. I didn't really plan a lot of this out. To be honest with you, I'm not like a super expert in drawing mouths or anatomy or humans. I've drawn a lot of realistic portraits, so like I've gotten to the end result, but I don't know if I could really sit here and draw an anatomically correct human being. All humans are also really different, so we're gonna learn like average basic features here, and then once you learn kind of like the basic structure, you can kind of manipulate them to give variety, and we'll do a few more examples today. Maybe something in between these would be like, and this is like actually pretty similar to as far as I go in my style. My style is a little bit cartoony. It's not like straight up comic book cartoony. There are some kind of structural, not cheat codes, but formulas, if you will, on how to draw a mouth. And one that I learned from a couple different YouTube videos I saw was sort of this like heart almond combo. So you have the heart shape there, and that's going to be for the upper lips, but stay tuned. And then you've got kind of like two more almond shapes. They taper a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then that's kind of like the formal structure of the lips. And that's kind of like how we're going to form our contour. So like the difference between contour, which is this, and even maybe a more crude, we'll go back over here, contour of lips, maybe like an iconographic or symbolic representation of, even I still put those smirk marks, that's hilarious. A representation of mouth. It's like really flat, kind of gives you the contour, the outlines of the shapes, whereas this is more gonna be more like mass, When you start doing some shading, it gives you more mass. But there's some really important parts of the face aren't gonna actually have the full contour to kind of break up some of these lines, and you'll see that throughout. But anyway, now we're gonna draw the line in the mouth, and I should say that there's like a point here. Those are like the corners of the mouth. Corners of the mouth are probably the most important part of the smile. There's just a lot of planes coming together of the face. So there's like the cheeks are stopping here, and that's like the outside corner of the mouth. And then obviously the lips, it's literally an opening of your mouth. So when they're closed, it creates a line. Now the line has different weight throughout. You know, maybe it's heavier, and I'm literally drawing a shape and filling it in to create an implied line. And this is gonna be different for everybody, but there's gonna be some line variation there. The more uniform you make it, the more cartoony. It looks more like an actual graphic line. See how this one has shadows here? Maybe it's bigger here. So then you're gonna use these mass developments here and kind of just outline it like that. And that's gonna be your bottom lip. And these mass forms are kind of gonna be where light is hitting it. So there's almost like 3 parts to the upper lip. There's that heart shape that we did, which is gonna be the most pronounced in the furthest forward of your upper lip. Some people's upper lip is further than their bottom, some people's bottom's further than their upper, but this is the philtrum, I think that's the scientific term, and that's like that space in between above the Cupid's bow, which is this. It's just what it's called. I don't know what it's like, that curve. Women will have more curvy upper lips. It's more of a feminine characteristic, and men might have a little more skinny upper lip. Maybe that line's there, maybe it's not even there. And I don't know if that really looks feminine to masculine there. In general, obviously, like, there are plenty of men that have juicy lips, and there are plenty of women who have little pencil lips, and then you can just, you know, enhance your femininity by going and getting Botox injected into your lips. Kind of like Brittany Mahomes. Whoa, not throwing shade. Do whatever you want. I love Brittany Mahomes. She keeps Patrick Mahomes happy somehow. I don't know how she does it. She's a witch, she's a magician, but the man's a baller, and I think she has something to do with it. I'll let you infer from that what you will. I'm being creative. I bet it doesn't not happen. Like, she's probably good at some things, a lot of things, and a variety of things. And I can, you know, imagine what some of them would be. Let's move on to drawing. What are we talking about? I love the Mahomes family. Congrats on the new baby. Mouths. So, getting back to it, this is closer to my mouth. It almost doesn't exist. Very skinny upper lip, even a skinny bottom lip. Amanda's, juicy, very juicy lips. So you don't need juicy lips to attract juicy lips. If you have small lips, you can attract a woman with juicy lips like I have, and then your babies will probably have a better chance at being somewhere closer to the middle. I did not pick Amanda based on her juicy lips, but I do like them. Okay, mouths, holy shit. Maybe it helps to put it in the context of the rest of the head. Let's draw a head. Just a circle. Doesn't have to be the oval shape, it can be a circle. We'll still get the idea. You have your nose, you know that sticks out. You have sometimes like a chin that would stick out. And then you have the lips, which are actually like a bulb. It's like sticking out. Maybe I should make this bigger. Here we go. Like Homer Simpson. But it's not that simple, it's not that crude. Start over here. This is exaggerated as hell. I made it even worse. But even still, you can kind of tell it's gonna be a mouth soon. I'm kind of shaping these lips a little bit. Maybe throw that nostril in there. And it just kind of helps to give it context. See how this like cheek here, and obviously I'm exaggerating, this guy looks like a swine with these jowls. A little chunky. Sweet hairdo. These are the lips. And I don't know what the formula is for drawing sideways. Really, I can only give you that front formula. Let's try it again. The heart, almond, almond. The almonds get smaller as they go to the corner of the mouth. Speaking of the corner of the mouth, let's go ahead and draw those in. Somewhere somewhere in between. You know, maybe it's like going through the middle of that heart. I don't really know. The bottom of that heart, the bottom third. And then we'll go ahead and draw in between. It goes under this section, maybe not even that big. Maybe it comes up closer to that. And then you almost have two reverse ones. And this is maybe if the person's smiling a little bit. And then it kind of goes back down. It goes like down, up, and then down a little bit again. Whatever emotion, whether it's a smile, you know what I mean? With the slight up one at the end, you can kind of tell that's a smile. Or maybe a smirk. Maybe a smile would be more like this. And then maybe a frown would be like this. Notice that I'm focusing on the corner of the mouths here. It's always going to be a little shape, like a little Nike swoosh. Or the opposite would be like this. Even just that little like Nike swoosh can kind of translate the emotion. Maybe you have a couple dimples over there. And then you can kind of build out. That's kind of like a resting face, but it could be a frown. Especially if you put sad eyes, like if this was the face. And you can do like a disgust, if you like really exaggerate it, like, it helps if you make the face too. You're your best model and you can kind of contort your face to any way that you want instead of trying to figure out a way to search for it. Throw in the teeth. We're not gonna get into teeth. If you wanna learn teeth, it kind of warrants its own separate tutorial because teeth are really kind of complex. But a rule of thumb with your teeth is to think about them as a whole shape instead of individual little teeth. Like once you start drawing the lines on the teeth, it can look like the teeth are like, you know, have like plaque and stuff on, and maybe they do. Observe what's real in life more than, you know, what I'm explaining. It's like a little more cartoony even than if we would have just left it. Watch, I'm gonna draw this really fast and it's still gonna be more realistic because I'm just gonna leave that as one shape. Maybe you have like a couple. Isn't that better? And actually, while we're talking about teeth, even though it's gonna be a separate video, they're not always gonna be white either. They're gonna be whiter than a lot of other stuff, but they're gonna be more of a gray. That's just a side note. We're gonna focus on a closed mouth today. We have been, and we're not gonna go much further than that. Like obviously an open mouth, you're gonna have the lips not having that line in the middle, which I said before was like the most important part. So once your mouth opens, it becomes just a smaller element of the whole thing, even though you are gonna consider it. You're gonna consider them almost as two lines. You're gonna have the opening, and then you're gonna have, or the top, and then you're gonna have the bottom. And this is like an exaggerated form here, but some people's lips are this juicy. Corners of the mouth, like that almost looks like a smile already. And that looks like a pretty big smile, even though it's flat, right? But no mouth goes like that. You're not the Grinch. So this is actually more of an accurate smile. See how I'm kind of putting these shapes in after the fact just to double check? I usually don't do that because I've drawn it enough to where I kind of understand the way they're shaped. And each lip is kind of like a cylinder in its own self. So like when you're thinking about shading and the realistic shading, this is so out of order. I'm sorry. This is so out of order. But I'm just kind of drawing stuff as I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll organize this later and make a different one that's more concise. But if you're gonna draw two cylinders sitting on top of each other, obviously you have the line, and that's gonna be the darkest shadow that there is, because it's where there's no light getting to. Maybe there's one under here too, which is why when you draw lips in a mouth, the most important part is probably that. It's probably the corners of the mouth where you have literally like 4 planes coming together. You have, well, 3 planes together. It's 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3 planes. You have the cheek, you have the upper lip, you have the bottom lip. So we're understanding now the overall form of the face. And then, you know, if you have the nose in there, you're gonna have like 3 spheres, maybe a triangle there, like a pyramid there. It's not quite a pyramid, but the basic shape is, right? And then you probably have a square here would be your chin. And then you have kind of like this triangle bit, and then your jaw is kind of like cylinders there that is overlapped by quite a bit of shapes that make up kind of like a bulbous shape, more of like a spear for your cheeks. Anyway, this is kind of getting into the weeds. For the mouth, all we need to know is this. You know, these are 2 cylinders, so maybe I'll cut them. They're not exactly shaped like this, but to get the basic shape of a cylinder, assuming that the light is coming down at like a 45-degree angle or so, you're gonna have your light, you know, coming down on each one, which casts the shadow, if this is a perfect cylinder, on the bottom half there. And you can, you know, take it a step further, and maybe this one goes over top of the bottom one, so it's actually like that. So you're kind of seeing how some shapes would be on a lip, you know what I mean? Even me just doing that kind of made it turn out like that shape. And obviously, lips aren't perfect cylinders, and that's why this looks weird. It looks like somebody with Botox. Whereas, you know, lips usually have a little bit more subtle. And see how I'm just going for it? I'm not really drawing the shapes out. I could draw the heart, the almond shapes, but once you draw that enough times, you can just go straight to the line and start to stylize it. Notice how I'm sticking with these. Anytime I want it to look like a smile, I'm usually going like upside down Nike. It can be like a T. Really just needs to be some sort of wedge shape. These are super bodacious lips. Kind of close to the symbolic contour only lips that we were drawing earlier. What else do you want to know? Hopefully this is helpful. I guess I can kind of stop here. Maybe I'll do, let me just draw one of my faces right down here, and I'll kind of give you an example of using your mouth knowledge and style and putting it into just something creative that I'm drawing out of my head. And then maybe I'll go to the other side of the spectrum and get a reference and actually try and sketch out a little more realistic lips. Let's do that. Okay, so I usually start with a nose when I'm drawing a face, and maybe I'll talk about this a little bit more whenever I put the whole face together, because that's what we're doing. We're breaking down the face. But I'm just gonna go through this and draw it and explain what comes to me. But the mouth is like second. I almost always go second to the mouth. And it's not even like proportional, right? Like this mouth is probably centered right here, and I got off track with the nose, but that's just kind of my style. I like it to be a little more stylistic. I'm still adding these crutches, these like basic structures, but I'm kind of wanting the randomness to happen in my drawing. This is just my style. Like that's most important to me. I'm trying to help you guys and learn like formal stuff, but I think you might learn more from just like watching me do it sometimes. So that's why I'm going in here and just showing you an example of like, it doesn't have to be realistic. In fact, I think sometimes drawing stylistically has more value because you're creating something new. If you're trying to do realism, that's good for studying, and it's good, like, you know, to have that in your tool belt, that realism, because then you can know what rules there are and how to break them, and you're gonna be able to create something new more intentionally. You know, it's just more stuff to do. And if you ever do like a commission, if you're a commission artist, which you can totally be, you can just learn how to copy a photo like I'm about to show you coming up here. And I just know what some of these shapes are in the face, and I'm not even that, I'm hoping that this process of teaching you is gonna also make me better, because I actually have some insecurities about knowing the fundamental features of the face and how they relate to each other. So I'm actually, part of this is me learning. But just because I'm not a master doesn't mean that I can't show you what knowledge I have. And so that's why I'm here. So if you want more of these kind of videos, please leave me a comment so I know that it's actually like working. The only reason I'm actually even doing this video is because I've had really good comment and interaction on my previous how-to tutorials, and it's just a way for me to bring you value. I know I do a lot of like documentation of my work on this channel, and that's primarily what it is, process videos, but the more directly educational videos I think have their place, and I'm trying to do more for y'all. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to help you. So let me know how I can help you. You get the concept. I like how the mouth is like the least pronounced feature here, so I'm gonna beef it up because it's not I didn't really put much detail into the mouth. And maybe that just goes to show you that less is more on mouths. It's maybe more complicated than we think it is, all these planes and stuff, and a lot of stuff to think about, but once you understand them, you can kind of just learn these little hacks, these little corner mouth things. And it will make it easier to just let it flow like this and just put them together. We've done mostly forward facing. Let me do just a quick sideways lip that's a little bit more realistic. This I will kind of rely on those shapes, and you can kind of see how it's like a heart shape. You know, before we had the heart, which is actually kind of like two smaller almonds. I think the heart just helps you keep them closer together, but it's almost like the lips are like 4 almonds, right? Done that 1,000 times now. This is great for me. So from the side, it would be only seeing basically 2 of those. And obviously these shapes are gonna differ. It's kind of getting redundant that I keep saying this over and over. And if you noticed, I often shade the bottom or the top lip, because if you notice, it does come down at an angle like this. If you're thinking about the lighting, it's gonna hit the top of the bottom lip, and maybe the bottom lip casts a little bit of shadow here because there's like that kind of crease. There's a really tiny nose on this person. So it's actually gonna hit there, you know. Maybe leave like a little line. If you look closely at a lot of lips on top, there's almost like the contour of the upper lip, if it is darker, because oftentimes it is darker, maybe not this dark, but certainly darker than these spots that are gonna be hitting the light. And then you have that philtrum that I was talking about. It's almost like there's like the Cupid's bow. There's almost like a really thin sliver that's a highlight there. Sometimes. Oftentimes. So that's pretty much it for the basic structures. I'm sure there's a lot more that I could talk about, but this is already kind of a longer video than I intended. And I think I'm getting the point across of how you can look at the mouth. Obviously, we're not getting into the open mouth, but as the mouth opens, some of these shapes will stretch. So it's basically the same shapes, but they're thinned out. That's not super awesome. There's so much things to think about when you're drawing an open mouth, because the teeth come into play, the tongue comes into play, and the jaws are also a thing. Like, obviously that's not a thing, but the opening of the mouth and understanding the jaw structure of a skull is a whole beast in its own. So I think I'm gonna have to do a separate instructional video there. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing quite right there on that. So let's just get into drawing from a photo. First we gotta find a photo. Got a reference? Okay, I mean, pretty juicy, right? I'll start by drawing this nose, and I'm already not drawing very well observationally. It's already starting to be my style because I just do my style by default, so this is gonna take some discipline here. This is not a drawing video about noses. Here I am drawing noses. Unimportant, but it does give context, and I think context helps. Speaking of context, I know I'm going out of order here, but the bottom of the nose and the chin might tell you where the bottom of the lips are gonna be. Typically, lips will be the bottom line in between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin in context of the face. You got the eyes. Typically, the mouth's gonna be inside of the eyes, the pupil of the eyes, maybe it's right there. Might line up with the corners if you're smiling. But if you're resting, it might be closer to the outside. That didn't help. So when I'm understanding this, the context here, I'm just gonna kind of map out her chin line there. So I want it to be somewhere in the middle. It's gonna be that bottom one. And then you're kind of just like dividing the shapes out in your head. Maybe that upper lip, maybe there's like a third breakdown here. So it's like, this is the biggest third, would be her bottom lip, and the second biggest third in between there. I don't think this is quite doing it justice here. Let's draw our little almonds here. I can kind of see the almonds on her mouth. This almost has a little bit of a dip there. And then this section is kind of like flat. So really highlighting or accentuating that bottom lip there. And she also has those corner pieces, goes down, kind of goes up. In this picture, her smile is pretty flat. But then her upper lip is just juicy. I'm not trying to objectify her here. I know I made some weird jokes earlier, but it really is. Like, the top part is almost as big as the bottom part. And, you know, some people like that. Some people don't. Some people like that. And she doesn't really have that highlight that I was telling you about earlier, but she has some highlights that are around here, which you usually just wouldn't draw, but I'm just drawing it as a study of like mapping them out. So then like basically everything up until there would be at least some sort of mid-tone so that those could be highlights. And then the bottom part does in fact go down. I kind of drew that line weird. I'm fucking this up. Hey, listen, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Practice is good. You want to practice as much as you can to get better, but we're not gonna be hard on ourselves while we're trying to learn when we're doing it wrong. It's almost worth doing it wrong so that you know what wrong is. But don't let perfect be the enemy of good, and don't be too hard on yourself, because we're here to learn. You can't be hard on yourself while you're actively trying to learn. You showed up and you watched this video today in order to get better. You are that much closer to understanding how to draw a mouth, and you're just, even if I didn't draw very good mouths today or show you that much insightful information, hopefully it gave you an excuse to sit down and practice, or to think about it, to think about these shapes. That's, I hope, at least what you got from this channel. If you got more than that, let me know. If it was really helpful, if you have any suggestions of what I should draw next, or some other type of drawing tutorial that would be valuable for you, let me know. But only, you know, if you think I'm halfway decent and maybe know what I'm talking about. If not, go watch somebody else. Go watch Jazza, okay? Go watch Stan Prokopenko. They are better art educators than me, so you don't need to watch my videos. But if you did like them, stick around. Maybe you just think I'm cute. For whatever reason, I'm just happy you're here. I'm just happy you're here. So, thank you for watching. That's pretty much it. This doesn't look like Brittany Mahomes' mouth. Hopefully Patrick doesn't hate me. Hopefully she doesn't hate me. I really do like them. They'll be good parents. I'm just a crass human being. So there you have it. Mouth. Thanks for watching.